Garrett Wilson put on a show with the new Jumpman logo, as Davante Adams even called it. I mean, it's a spectacular catch, classic grab that was, I don't know, a centimeter away from being forgotten as an incomplete pass out of the back of the end zone. What a phenomenal grab and a great win for the Jets over the Houston Texans, who are, they're going the opposite direction, where C.J. Stroud again struggles with that offensive line in front of him. Chad, the Jets all of a sudden, who were favored in this game in Vegas, and everyone's raising an eyebrow going, what? They put together a second half, a memorable one, not just because of the points scored and the way that they won the game, but of course with the Garrett Wilson grab. That's a big win for them and a little momentum as they get the first win since they fired Robert Saleh.
It was huge. And I said yesterday that, lose on Sunday to the Patriots and turn around 5 days later or 4 days later and lose on Thursday Night Football to the Texans. That's the official end of your season. It felt like it was the end on Sunday, the way the Jets lost to that terrible Patriots team. But if you were to win last night, suddenly you start looking out at the horizon, looking at the schedule, and at 3-6, you can say, all right, here's the way out if this team's going to get back into playoff contention. And I think with that win, they're still, mathematically, obviously alive, but you can start to look for that route to getting back into playoff contention for the Jets. Still going to be very tough. Still an uphill climb for them. In no ways did this just save their season. It may have reversed it. We'll have to wait to see. But Hutton, if that water and cayenne pepper mix did not pay off last night, I think it might have, because Aaron Rodgers was not great, but he looked a little bit more spry. There was one run where he looked like the old Aaron Rodgers, way more than he has since he's been banged up this year. It was called back for holding, but he took off up the middle and even had a little juke move in the middle of it and probably got 10 to 12 yards. But it looked like the old Aaron Rodgers with the scrambling ability. And that throw, just throwing it up for grabs to Garrett Wilson and saying, let my guy get a chance to go get it. I was watching that one live, post-trick-or-treating, and what a grab that was. I thought it was the right call, too. I thought his shin did hit before his knee.
I did, too. Look, before we get back to the grab, let's also just mention Aaron Rodgers looking like the old Aaron Rodgers in the second half.
Yeah.
He's 15 of 18 for 180 yards passing in the second half, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, a quarterback rating, or passer rating of 145 or something. I mean, he was great. Davante Adams on that third down where he just gives the thumb down signal to him and they know exactly the route he's going to run. The play where he was hurt but came back into the game. That could be a difference maker. Hassan Reddick can be a difference maker. I mean, they have the talent around. Can they put it all together? And they overcame a huge gap from Corley, from the receiver from Western Kentucky. Why do players continue to do this? Drop the football right before going into the end zone? I mean, it's just why?
I do not understand. And Malachi Corley, a young guy also, you're not getting a ton of opportunities to go in and score in the NFL. I don't know what happens to the human mind. It's like the Tyreek Stevenson situation. In that moment, last play of the game, you just got to lock down for one play and not let something crazy happen. Just stay locked in and focused. And the guy's talking trash to the crowd, and they get beat on the play. I don't know. I don't know what happens to the human brain in competition. I get you just lose it post-play, post-game, and you can start talking trash and get excited, and you kind of, you see red almost, and you don't really know what's happening.
You black out.
But mid-play for a guy as young as him that's not getting a ton of opportunity, not a star on the team, here's your chance with a perfectly designed play to waltz into the end zone, and your mind goes to, let me celebrate too early and lose the ball before I go into the – how do you even risk it? I'm holding on to that thing high and tight, Hut, past the goalpost. I'm making damn sure it's a touchdown. I'm not even releasing the ball.
If I'm scoring a touchdown there, I'm keeping the ball,
Yes, I'm holding on to it to the sideline the whole time. But just in general, you don't want to do anything when it's that easy to prevent what is going to happen on the play, which is a touchdown. Hold on to that thing as long as humanly possible and never risk I even get mad when the defender – there's no one around them, and they kind of slowly truck it, and you see him kind of set the ball right across the goal line at times, or just stop right as they get in.
Yeah.
I'm like, run that thing to the back of the end zone. Forrest Gump that bad boy, where they had to put people up to stop him with a stop sign. Run that thing to the back of the end zone. Come on.
Don't lose the ball. I mean, in that stadium,
it's crazy.
You can lose the jersey Antonio Brown style before you lose the football there in that end zone. The other thing, too, not only the Jets lose points there, they could have had the ball on like the 1 yard line. They got lucky. Even the Texans got lucky because the ball rolled out of the back of the end zone. Otherwise, it was just going to be where he fumbled the football, which also sucks. If you're that dumb,
he helped the other team in way too many ways on that one.
The Jets have the Cardinals coming up. They've got the weekend rest. They've got the Cardinals next weekend, followed by the Colts on Sunday Night Football, and then the Seahawks and Dolphins over the next 4 games. Can they claw their way back in at 3-6? I mentioned yesterday one big thing. There's a lot of bad teams right now. So good win.
And they've got a few of them coming up, at least not necessarily by record, but Arizona's going to be tough.
It's on the road.
Indy at home.
Yep.
You got to win that.
Have to.
Got to win that if you're the Jets. Seattle at home, going to be tough, but they just beat the Texans, who are a good team, could win that. I think Miami, on the road, going to be tough now with Tua back. But
and if Miami catches fire, that's a huge game for like a 7 seed.
Jacksonville it should be a win after that, but the Rams at home, Buffalo, Miami to close out is going to be tough. But last night at least gives themselves a chance. Where at 2-7, if they lose that game, you're done.
Absolutely, that was their last stand. So at least they have oxygen. Let's put it that way.
Yes,
they have oxygen.
They have oxygen, and they have cayenne pepper and water.
Better catch.
And you can sustain on both those things. You can live on both.
They're
alive.
Better catch. Garrett Wilson's grab last night or Odell Beckham Jr.?
So Odell Beckham Jr.'s, did that end up being a touchdown?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So he fell back into the end zone
on
that
one?
He
fell back into the end zone.
I couldn't remember if he caught it there and went
backwards
out the one or fell into the end zone.
Yes, that's a touchdown.
I got to give my guy Odell Beckham Jr. marks on the full extension more, but he's also a taller, longer player than Garrett Wilson. Hutton, there was something more, I don't know if dramatic is the word, because we had seen it before with Odell Beckham Jr., a degree of difficulty on the Garrett Wilson one where he's falling out of the back of the end zone. It just looked a little bit different.
Yeah. And
the way his shin had to hit, he gets the 1 foot down and momentum's taking him out. And then he drags that same shin in the end zone where he gets the foot down. I don't want to be guilty of recency bias here, but I got to give it to Garrett Wilson.
So memorable, it's Odell Beckham Jr.
Because it was the first of its kind. That was the one people point to that was sort of the first where we're really talking about how good those gloves are on that play.
Yes. You're right. That was the spider tack.
You've worn those gloves, right?
Yes.
It makes a difference.
Oh, a huge difference. The level of difficulty, I mean, they're both, no one's pulling these off, right? But I think the image of the catch is iconic for Garrett Wilson if he goes to Jordan Brand, Jumpman, like Devontae Adams mentioned. He's with Adidas right now, I believe. And, I mean, you could compare these two. That's pretty cool.
He's got to get out of that contract.
Well, Devontae Adams said,
you got to start negotiating. I don't know how many years are left on the Adidas deal.
I don't know.
But if you're his agent, you got to be calling Michael Jordan's people today and saying, we need to get this guy a contract with you.
So Devontae Adams had just left the field in concussion protocol, right? They're checking him for that. And he didn't see that play until post-game. And then 3 minutes after he saw the replay, he went to his media availability and he said, hey, I just saw it. I just talked to Garrett Wilson. And, I mean, he's on Adidas, maybe not for long. He's got to join me with Jumpman. And I thought to myself, this is a no-brainer. That's a commercial.
It's such a no-brainer that it feels like Adidas would even understand. If you're his agent and you're like, look, guys, I know we got a legally binding deal through 2027, yada, 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 whatever. But have you seen the side-by-side with the Jumpman and this? Like, we really need to make a move right now. And Adidas would probably be like, yeah, we kind of get it. Soccer's our bag anyways. So go ahead.
What if you're Adidas and can you own the silhouette of the Garrett Wilson catch and it not be?
I don't think you could own anything that's too close to that.
I mean,
regardless if he's if they're an Adidas athlete or not.
This was created by Garrett Wilson.
Now, I think you could just post that. You know, you'd have the rights from Garrett Wilson in the NFL. I don't know about the NFL, but he could give you the rights to the likeness and the image, right?
Yeah,
if you wanted to use that. But
I love it.
Any facsimile that would put that into a logo, even if you outline the actual photo of Garrett Wilson,
I don't know.
I am willing to bet the Nike attorneys would be sending emails with cease and desist immediately if that were to happen.
I don't know. I think you could win this argument.
I want to see this case happen.
I do too.
Resident attorney Clay Travis will weigh in next time. I don't think he does a lot of trademark law or never has, but we can ask him about it.
I don't know. I feel like maybe Davey studied this.
This had to be a class in law school for Davey.
I feel like you could win this. It was
whether or not they can win this.
It happened.
I just think lawyers can typically get away with just threatening a cease and desist. It would all be about Adidas doing it and then fighting it and it actually going to court, right? Lawyers send emails out all the time about take this down or don't do this, and it usually ends with the email and someone taking it down.
I would absolutely agree that I would assume Odell Beckham Jr. is a bigger receiver than Garrett Wilson. He's an inch shorter.
Really? Well, he's longer.
He's 5'11".
He's got longer arms.
6 feet tall.
I'd like to get the draft combine wingspan report and reach on those guys because Odell Beckham Jr. has to have longer arms than Garrett Wilson.
Davey, could we win this argument in court if we're Adidas?
It'd be difficult, but there's a possibility with it. I mean, when you look at situations with trademarks, it's so close. I mean, look at these side by side.
If the Jumpman logo for Garrett Wilson was Catchman or something, or Grabman, I don't know, and it was a green instead of a silhouette black, could you win this argument?
If you kept his jersey and everything like we're kind of seeing, like it's just more cut out, but I don't think you could go with the straight black and white logo. And I think you'd struggle to win that case.
Even if the jersey's in black. I mean, let's go.
Well, there are cases of musical groups, artists, whoever, stealing beats or stealing, something that sounds just like the chorus,
which is hard
to another song. And a lot of times the settlement is that artist will give so much of the money that song is made over to the original artist in a settlement.
Yeah.
Like, could you work out something like that? Where Garrett Wilson and Adidas say, we're going to market this, and you just kind of go to Nike and be like, you guys get 30% of it because it's so close to your logo, and we understand that. But we're still going to do this on the football side, and Garrett Wilson is one of our athletes.
Or you go to Jumpman and you say, here, you could take over the marketing contract, and we get a percentage by heading over.
If you did that as Adidas, I think you're also just announcing your own defeat.
Yeah.
So they're probably not going to be like, yeah, that sounds like a good deal. We'll take 30%. What they would say is, by coming to us, you're admitting it's so close that you can't do it, so you need our permission. So the answer is no. No, you can't use it. And if you use it, we're going to sue you. I want to see him try, though. I really want to see him try.
Look at here we go. Ari's even got us here. Here's the quote from Davante Adams.
That one's different enough to where it wouldn't be associated with it. That's good right there. Like I don't think if Nike tried to sue for that, they're not winning that one.
Is this the equivalent of, you see Lassiter in coverage? Is this being posterized like in the NBA as well?
This is the football version of it. But Mossed is what they call it. You got Mossed.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Or it's either the stiff arm or it's like something like this in coverage. I told him he might get kicked from Adidas after that one. That one looked like he's headed over to Jumpman with me. Going to talk to some people.
I still think it's too close.
They've even reversed the sides of the Jumpman. Like he's going the opposite way. Obviously, the football, you've got the distinguishing mark around that. He's wearing a helmet. There's marks cutting off the cleats.
I still think it's too close.
I think you could win this one. If they just tried to use the other image we were looking at from the other viewpoint, where it's like literally side by side with the Jumpman, I don't think they would have a good case there.
I like getting an impartial opinion like Davies on this. I'll just say that the good attorneys I know would see this and be like, oh, hell yeah, we're winning this if you're Nike.
Well, how good are the attorneys for Jumpman?
It's way too close.
Yeah, that's way too close.
Now, the attorneys for Adidas may be really good too, and they're arguing what Davey is, that it's not as close and we can win it. Point being, really good attorneys are confident enough to believe they have the winning case. At most, all
they're getting paid either way, so that's why they usually have that mentality.
And the attorneys are busy with Jordan. He's suing NASCAR right now.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a whole thing.
Do you think it's the Jordan brand attorneys or his personal?
No, it's
his personal
as
attorneys.
a NASCAR owner, right?
There's the whole situation with the
insane.
France family that owns NASCAR and their ownership structure and what they're trying to do.
How much money
there's
of
a lot to get
the
into
TV
that.
contract goes to the driver?
Well, they're also wanting them to have
team.
to pay for ownership into the way they have it set up is a lot different than other sports, but it's just pretty much they're trying to make this a monopoly where that family is just getting money constantly coming in, whereas like Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin only thought they had to pay this one-time fee to pretty much be an owner of how they're looking to brand the sport moving forward. I don't know if brand's the right word there, but at least structure the overall body of NASCAR moving forward. And I don't know how that one's going to come out. I haven't paid that much attention to see like where things are trending there, but that is definitely something to where there's a lot of frustration, and I'm really curious to see what ends up coming out of that.
Is there a bigger mythical figure currently living in sports than Michael Jordan? And I mean, he's almost a recluse in some ways
available
because he doesn't do interviews.
Yeah.
You know, he does a documentary that he's getting paid on, and he'll be very open in that, but he doesn't talk a lot. But yet when you see him, it's like
in charge of. You're
it's
right.
like seeing Bigfoot. You know, when he was in Nashville at one of those races, it was such a big deal. People reporting where they saw him in Nashville. We talked to someone who's attended one of his birthday parties and how secretive he has to be. He basically just took out a field somewhere outside of Chicago or something and had tents everywhere and bars set up, and you get like sent a message that no one else can read, and you have to go through security to get to it. And it's an hour before,
like
go to these coordinates, right, in the middle of a field, and that's Michael Jordan's birthday party. So no photographers,
Here's your sundial.
There's no one taking pictures there. Pretty incredible.
Trey was at a wedding not too long ago where Michael was in attendance.
And
Bubba Wallace, I'm guessing. Yeah.
Was anyone allowed to look in his direction, or was this like a you
I just remember Trey saying it was a pretty surreal
you're not allowed
experience.
To,
it's like, there's Michael Jordan just hanging out.
You're not allowed to initiate a handshake with the British royalty, right?
Is that a thing?
Yeah, like you can't, like you're not supposed to touch.
You can't touch. They have to extend a hand to you, I think.
Yes, and like Tom Cruise did this once, and it was kind of awkward.
Yeah, I notice now though they shake hands a lot. I think the younger generation, right? The younger generation of royalty is more cool about doing that.
If they offer, you can do that, but you're not supposed to even like slap someone on the shoulder or anything like that.
No, I think very much like the head monarch, you don't touch anywhere.
Well,
like King Charles now, you don't go and pat him on the shoulder or try to get his attention that way. And I do think that I think the younger monarchs though will just shake hands normally.
But even
though there's a custom to it.
What William and Kate or whatever, you're not supposed to. It's weird, man. But see, like
when they rub elbows with so many, when they rub elbows with celebrities, I feel like they just let it go.
My ancestors fought a war where I wouldn't have to worry about this situation.
You're what?
My ancestors fought in a war and won to where we didn't have to worry about this situation.
That's the way American celebrities treat it. Like I'm watching them in the box at Wimbledon, right? And there's here's Matthew McConaughey or whoever, and he's going right up and giving Princess Kate a hug.
Tom Brady would say that's very much in line with just being a spaz.
Yeah. They don't like that in the UK.
They don't.
They definitely don't like that.
Couldn't say that on an NFL broadcast here. That's for sure. How about Micah Parsons and Diggs saying that Trevon Diggs not saying the name of Dak Prescott whenever they start ranking their 5 quarterbacks in the NFL, their top 5 in no particular order. They did this on Parsons' podcast, The Edge. They left Dak Prescott out of their list of, in their opinion, their favorite quarterbacks in the league. In no particular order: Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford. They even threw out Sam Darnold's name.
I think you could easily explain this away as, we were talking about guys we play against.
Yeah.
We thought Dak was excluded. Like if some local reporter who's going to be trying to dig up a story goes to these guys, but hey, you didn't have Dak in your top 5. Why? And they can say, we were talking about guys we play against, our competition. Top 5 toughest quarterbacks we go against. That's why.
Yeah.
That's an easy explanation for this.
But it's also fair.
It's also true. Right. I'm not going to sit here and deny it's not true. We had Jonathan Papelbon yesterday, and I'm laughing at, which I completely forgot about this, Kevin Millar is on SportsCenter when all the rumors about A-Rod being traded to the Red Sox going on. And Millar's talking about it today, and he's like, I'm feeling like I'm just going to be a company man, and this trade is happening. So Dan Patrick, with a great question, just goes, so Manny Ramirez and Nomar Garcia-Parra or A-Rod, who would you rather have on your team? And he just says, A-Rod. And, of course, the trade doesn't happen, and now he's got to go back in the locker room with Nomar.
Right.
And Manny, and he's got to explain himself to it. And he's talking about how Nomar is dog cussing him on the phone 5 minutes after the interview. Like, how could you do this to me? I don't think it gets to that with Dak Prescott and Micah Parsons. But it is funny how sometimes, people are going to read into it however they want. But that's answering honestly, too. If you're him, he's like, yeah, I think, this guy's such a good player. We'd rather have him.
And I mean, this
top 5 list to me is legit. He's not in the top 5.
It's also,
is he on anyone's top 5?
Who you would want right now in fantasy football.
He's not in Jerry Jones's top 5 or top 10 right now. If you asked him to rank quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah, you're right.
So,
I mean, they left other quarterbacks off. You think Joe Burrow's pissed off about this?
I don't think Joe Burrow cares. As long as
Aaron Rodgers?
As long as Macaulay Culkin is being Joe Burrow for Halloween, he's fine.
Everyone's like, oh,
he's good with it.
Burrow is Macaulay Culkin, and I thought Macaulay Culkin was very funny in that.
Somewhere, though, it could be Joe Burrow.
Joey B.
It could be someone else. Someone is pulling the Michael Jordan. So I took that personally. Right now with Micah Parsons and Trevon Diggs, what they said.
Yes.
Athletes are great at finding a grudge.
I know Prescott was great in the regular season last year. 36 touchdowns. Threw for over 4,000 yards.
He's a hell of a regular season quarterback.
Yes, he is.
Great regular season quarterback. Like Aaron Judge, great regular season players.
Yes. Parsons will not be available for Week 9 in the regular season. He's not going to play for the Dallas Cowboys. There's going to be a new coach for the Indiana Fever. Chad, you and I recognize the name very well. Stephanie White is the new coach for the Indiana Fever, also a former coach of the Indiana Fever. She's also a former coach of the Vanderbilt Commodores women's basketball team that absolutely sucked.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, it was an awful tenure for Stephanie White here in Nashville coaching college hoops. But, I mean, she's known for coaching the WNBA. And you brought this up earlier today, Chad, about what you remember about her final season in college basketball.
Well, so it's funny because I've heard things about her from people that were close to Vanderbilt athletics.
Yeah.
That I can't really verify enough to talk about right now that was going on within the program.
It's like one source, not two kind of thing.
It's one of those things, Hutton, where there are times where we have to check the public record.
Yes.
Right on things because we tend to get info and conversations from people that I'm like, does everyone know about that or do I just know about that?
Yeah.
This was one of those things. So I checked the public record. Stephanie White, first off, at Vanderbilt, was 46-83 overall. She was 14-58 in the SEC. I mean, that's difficult.
I mean, that takes, you have to try to do that.
If I could get this out of my lungs, I'll be a lot better. That's difficult. I'm choking over here like Aaron Judge. Very difficult to accomplish that level of futility, right?
Yes.
Anywhere. She was awful at Vanderbilt. But Hutton, 2020-2021 season, with all the COVID restrictions and everything else, she just discontinued a season in January. And I totally forgot about that. I just searched Stephanie White controversy, and the first thing that popped up was
evaporated.
The Vanderbilt players got together and voted to not play anymore after losing by 52 points to South Carolina that year. And they just, all right, guys, our safety is in doubt. They did have a player who had myocarditis from COVID-19 that was out. They had 2 players sick that was quarantined at different times. They had other legitimate injuries on the team.
And they're on a campus that was private and had other restrictions.
And they could do whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
So they were down to 7 of their 14 scholarship players that were on the team, and they just decided, all right,
and we'll call
it a season.
They tapped out like
good news for Vanderbilt. No one asked for a refund for season tickets because no one had any. Because at this point of Stephanie White's tenure, no one went to Vanderbilt women's basketball games, and I mean that. I don't know that anybody paid to go to one of those games. I think it was all like give the young girls basketball team tickets to go watch college basketball.
A field day.
Yeah. It was real bad. But she's been pretty good in the WNBA.
Well, think about the upgrade that Stephanie White has now. She was with, the Connecticut Sun. Mm-hmm. I brought this up earlier in the season discussing like just how bad it was in the WNBA compared to how great it is that Caitlin Clark's in the league. The Mohegan Sun owns that team. They've got this like rec center where they practice, the Connecticut Sun, and they get kicked off the court in like this recreation center anytime there's like a Pilates class because it's like a membership recreation center. And they sometimes have to end their practice early. Stephanie White's head coach going from that to now the Indiana Fever with Caitlin Clark, the face of women's basketball. You get to coach Caitlin Clark. I mean, that's exactly what you want.
And you would think that
the clamoring to coach her would be, like wanting Phil Jackson's job.
Well, and you would think that this would be this is going to be the premier organization for the WNBA for years to come.
Yes.
And they're going to do things first class, unlike in Connecticut.
I would think so.
I'm trying to see what was Stephanie White doing this year, because she didn't coach this year.
I don't know. Great question.
Her coaching record overall is 59 and 41 through 100 games as a head coach in the WNBA. She coached the Indiana Fever 2015-2016, went to Vanderbilt, got back into coaching in 2023, won WNBA Coach of the Year with the Connecticut Sun.
Well, you know what this is? So they just rehired their former president there, too. So they're just going back to what the people in the organization that they had. Is what it feels like, right? Or what it is now. They brought back like the woman who had been the team president for 17 seasons or something. You and I were surprised the Indiana Fever had been around that long.
She was with Connecticut Sun this year, too.
Okay.
I double-checked that. Coaching, I'm just going to shock you. Basketball coaching reference, which I go to, stat reference,
nice.
Not caught up on the latest WNBA records for their coaches. So they just have a blank spot for 2024.
Fill in the blank.
They got to get someone to input those numbers for her. So even the record I told you is off because
also,
it does not factor in this year's record for
just
them.
one more random thought.
So basically disregard about half of what I just said.
How about the two coaches coaching Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese both getting fired after the rookie season?
The Indiana Fever one's a surprise because
and Angel Reese didn't want her coach fired.
Yeah, but they were bad. I mean, two teams don't make the playoffs?
4, I think.
4. She was one of the 4. The Chicago Sky was, so I understand them not making it. But to go from number 1 pick for Indiana to playoffs, as Jim Mora would say in Indianapolis, playoffs, that's not bad. I was surprised she was fired.
From the WNBA to the NBA, and Mark Cuban spouting off on The View, discussing how there's no strong women around President Trump. There's a reason for that. Well, Riley Gaines, who's been like a world tour, she's back, and she's back letting everyone know that Mark Cuban needs to, check out the strong women around President Trump.
All right, let's just unpack this really quick. Just in the past week alone, Trump supporters have been called Nazis by virtually every media outlet. We have been called garbage by the sitting United States president. And now Mark Cuban has come out and said there is no such thing as a strong, intelligent female supporter of Donald Trump because they don't exist. Respectfully, Mark Cuban, you would not know a strong, intelligent female if she slapped you across the face, which you're such a beta, you might actually kind of like that. So if you are a healthcare provider, if you are a school teacher, if you are a U.S. military member and you are a woman and a Trump supporter, then to Mark Cuban, you are stupid and weak. If this woman right here, Tulsi Gabbard, a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army, if this is not a strong, intelligent woman, then what is? Actually, I already know Mark Cuban's answer. This is who Mark Cuban believes to be a strong, intelligent woman. Although we really shouldn't be too surprised that a comment like this would come out of Mark Cuban's mouth, considering that he says border czar Harris has done a good job at the southern border, which maybe we just have different ideas of what constitutes as a good job. But to me, the illegal entrance of 13,000 murderers, 16,000 rapists, and the 320,000 missing children certainly doesn't fit the bill. It doesn't seem like continually disparaging more than half the country less than a week before Election Day is an effective strategy to get your candidate elected. But what do I know? I'm just a stupid, weak woman.
Well, she's not. She just owed the entire conversation over Mark Cuban there.
Yeah, that was very good by Riley. Sage Steele also had something good they said about it as well. Mark Cuban has tried to clarify.
What's up with all the clarifications of comments instead of just saying what you mean and mean what you say recently?
This is going to sound crazy. I'm going to cut Mark Cuban a little bit of slack here.
Okay.
Because he didn't say every Donald Trump female supporter isn't strong or intelligent. His exact quote, and he took it, and he's got the exact quote. He said, let me clarify something. This is what I said during the conversation about why Nikki Haley is not active in the campaign for Trump.
Okay.
Quote, Donald Trump, you never see him around strong, intelligent women ever. It's that simple. They're intimidating to him. He doesn't like to be challenged by them. And Nikki Haley will call him on his nonsense with reproductive rights and how he sees and treats and talks about women. I mean, he just can't have her around. It wouldn't work. And then he says, I'm happy to clarify this. One, I know many strong, intelligent women voting for Trump, including in my extended family. I'm certainly not saying female voters are not smart, strong, and intelligent. Two, I know he has worked with strong, intelligent women, Elaine Chao, Kellyanne, Ivanka, many others. But I stand by my opinion that he does not like being challenged publicly by women or anyone else. That from Mark Cuban.
Wow.
So I think a pretty important clarification.
I also
think
Riley's not going to have to clarify her comments.
No, not at all. And I also think yet another unforced error by people around Kamala Harris. Like, this is just not the news that you want now, right before the election, and for no reason than Mark Cuban said something that's got everybody talking on The View.
So mentioning unforced errors, the NFL has clearly thought about this. They are not going to fine Nick Bosa until next week, the end of next week. That's the report. So the only report out is that he's not going to be suspended, which again, he's facing discipline. It's like an $11,300 fine for the MAGA hat, right? Normally that fine would come down today on the locker, but the report is that they're not going to rule on this until next week. Why? Well, they don't want to be a storyline going into Tuesday. Yeah. So they've clearly made up their mind that they're not going to do anything like that for a political message one way or the other until next week when the election, we hope, is decided by next Friday.
And I really can't blame them on this one.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go back to what I've said before. I think
He's going to be fine.
All reasonable people just want this. Just the same rule applied to all statements like this.
Yeah.
Well, just not one side, getting fined and not. Well, it's either everyone or no one.
Well, but it is. Just ask George Pickens. It wasn't a political statement, but
right. I'm talking more about politics. If you endorse anything, then everyone gets the fine. That's what I'm saying.
Well, and it is nonpartisan. He will be fined, but they're not going to do the political fine right before
they're not
Sunday before
trying
the
to
election.
help one side or the other right before the election.
I would tend to think so.
Because this will fire up Trump supporters.